What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! Go Rush episode review. Today, guys, we are going to be going over episode 11 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Go Rush. Very excited to be going over this episode with you guys, so without further ado, let's jump right into it. So, generally speaking, what were my thoughts on episode 11 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Go Rush? If I'm going to be completely honest, if it wasn't for the last, 5 minutes of the episode, heck, even the first 5 minutes of the episode I thought was pretty solid, I don't really care for the episode. The thing with this episode is that it's probably the most unnecessary episode that we've had in this entire show, and normally I don't do something like this, but I'm going to be jumping around in this review because the main bulk of the episode really wasn't too much. In fact, I kind of was contemplating on whether or not I should do a review for episode 11 because not a whole lot ended up happening, but the thing is that I only will not do reviews if it's a recap, and this episode is not really technically a recap. Yeah, we went back and relearned everything about Rush Duels, but I don't know, to me it just still doesn't really feel like a recap episode in my opinion, so I just decided, you know what? Let's still do the review. It might be one of the shorter reviews on the channel. I have no idea yet, so we're just going to have to wait and see. But, yeah, in my opinion, wasn't really the biggest fan of this episode. So let's start off with, more of the middle of the episode. So, after the whole conflict that we had with Manabu, which we'll discuss after this, Yugioh decides that he wants to basically relearn Rush Duels after the whole event that ended up happening with, Meig-chan and Chupataro. He decides that he wants to relearn Rush Duels so that way he can prepare himself to be able to face off against, Yugioh. And obviously at first, they are a little perplexed by it and just didn't really know if they should be doing it or not, but Manya steps up and says, yeah, I'll help you basically relearn Rush Duels in my own new training routine to help you learn it. And, Yugioh is appreciative of it, and everyone decides to join in as well, and basically they start their training montage to help Yugioh prepare for Yugioh, and that's basically what the bulk of the episode was these characters going through this hellish training, as Manya called it, to basically help teach Yugioh about Rush Duels. And I'm just gonna be completely honest, what the hell was the point of this? Seriously, why did we have to waste so much of the episode on doing training and tutorial crap again? This entire show, and basically every episode except for 2 episodes, we've been doing tutorial episodes. Now, if this was a case where we haven't had a tutorial in a couple of episodes, let's say episode 5 was the last tutorial that we had in the show, then I think that would make a little more sense. I think probably the best scenario that you have to basically allow this to be a thing is maybe Yugioh took a loss, and just to make sure that he can actually go up against Yugioh, that's when he actually decides to do some more training and basically relearn Rush Duels. That to me makes a little bit more sense than this, because throughout the entire show, basically every single episode, there has been a new tutorial that Yugioh had been learning, and yes, I know you can say, well, he's just making sure that he's refreshed on everything just to make sure that he can be prepared, and I understand that, but the thing is that it just feels so unnecessary, and I don't know, this episode just kind of felt like a waste of time. Again, if it wasn't for the beginning and the last part of this episode, honestly, this would be the first episode in the show where I could say very confidently that you could skip this episode and literally miss nothing, in my opinion. But speaking of the first and last parts of that episode, let's jump to the beginning of this episode that I just skipped over, which involves the Manabu stuff, which, boy oh boy, this scene with Manabu at the very beginning really is starting to make me love Manabu even more. I thought my opinion on that character grew when he dueled against Bocchi, but seeing this more serious side of Manabu has really shot up his character, in my opinion. So, after the whole conflict that happened with Meig-chan and Chupataro, Manabu decides that in order to stop what's going on, he decides that him and his MIK group is basically going to track down Yugioh. And what I loved about this part of the episode is that we got to learn a little bit more of how much of a threat that MIK could be, because, they asked, how are you going to deal with this whole situation with Yugioh? Like, what's going to happen to him? And Manabu basically says that once we capture Yugioh, because he's going to be on threat levels, we're not going to just send him back up to space, because obviously if you just send him back up to space, he's just going to come right back and they're going to be in the same issue again. What they're going to do is that they're going to basically take them to this chamber area, lock him into like this little tube looking thing, and then basically freeze him for the rest of his life. They basically said that they were going to kill him by freezing him. And everyone was shocked by this. And Yugioh was saying, no, you cannot do that. But Manabu says, no, I can do that. He is a threat, and this is the way that we deal with big threats like this. And I do understand that, because of the fact that if this is a alien that is threatening the world and can basically start killing humans, if you believe that's a threat, this is probably the best way that you're going to deal with it, because locking them up in a cell is not going to do anything. I mean, hell, look at Chupataro and Mitazuku, where they were able to just get out of the chamber completely escape-free. Like, they were able to get out of it pretty easily. So, obviously, that's not going to work. And sending them up into space isn't going to work either, because of the fact that they could just come back. So, this is honestly the only option that they really have. I mean, is it dark to all hell? Absolutely, but that does not mean that it's not fantastic. I've stated multiple times that this show has needed to be dark, because we had Sevens that was such a comedic show, and then you also had Reigns that was a very serious show, and I felt like we needed to have basically a 50-50 between a dark theme and a comedic theme. I feel like we've done pretty well with the comedic theme, and now these last couple episodes where now we're having monsters coming to real life basically, and now we have Manabu with this goal of basically killing Yugioh, in the sense, which, by the way, this has shot Manabu's character up for me even more, because the fact that he is willing to do this shows that he is serious about this. In fact, he sits this right in front of Yugioh, Neanderstar, and Bochi, with the last two being more important because they're very close to Manabu, more specifically Neanderstar. I mean, she's basically his right-hand man of the group, so the fact that he's willing to do that to aliens and he has no issue with that, that shows that Manabu is a threat if you were not careful with it. And I absolutely love that, because at the beginning of the show, Manabu just felt like a Team Rocket kind of ripoff character, and I was not the biggest fan of that. I just felt like this character, for not only being the rival company, but being basically alien hunters, they needed to have some serious tone to them. And this was honestly the best way that they could have done it, and I absolutely loved it. So that was a great scene. And also, what's interesting about the whole freezing aspect of this is that you potentially can have a villain set up here, because maybe you do a concept of where this alien has been frozen up in the MIK chamber for years now, and an alien was basically able to infiltrate the building, was able to release one of the aliens that's locked in the chamber, they unfreeze him and everything, and then he's basically the threat. For whether or not that's the next arc or not, we're gonna have to wait and see, but basically have him as the next villain of the show, I think is perfect setup, and I do think we're on the route of seeing that happening. When we're going to see that happen, we're going to have to wait and see, but the potential setup that we have for that is also great as well. I absolutely love that part of the episode as well. But that's it for the first 5 minutes of the episode, and this is where we get to the last part of the episode. So after they do their training, they are basically ready to go after Yugioh, and obviously, they have to try to find some leads to him, because they have no clue where he would be. And the thing is that they have to hurry and find Yugioh, because MIK right now is also after him, and obviously Yugioh does not want that to happen to Yugioh, because he believes that he can change Yugioh's mind to make him understand that this decision that Udius is trying to do is the right decision, and what Zwijio is trying to do with the Earth Damar is not the right decision. So obviously they have to hurry and try to find where the hell Zwijio is at. So they basically decide, let's go to Chupataro's place and see if maybe there's a clue there to basically find out where Zwijio might be at. So they head to the place where Chupataro is living at, and boy, oh boy, like, Chupataro, get a life, see a therapist. I don't know what the hell you need to do, but dude, this is getting to the point where it's beyond creepy, because Udius and the group go to the place where Chupataro is staying at, and when they first walk into the door, every part of that damn room that he's staying in is just filled with Mii-chan. You know, the floor is Mii-chan, the walls are Mii-chan, the bed sheet is Mii-chan. I'm pretty sure there's like a beanbag or something in there. That's Mii-chan. And I'm pretty sure you saw dolls of Mii-chan. Like, dude, this is a crazy obsession that you have with Mii-chan, and you need to get some help, dude, because you got from the levels of being like a super fan to basically just being a straight up creep. Like, what the hell, dude? Chupataro, like, you need some help, dude. But, you know, they go in there, and, you know, after being disgusted by that, you know, they're looking around trying to find out where, you know, they could find a clue to where Chupataro is at. And after London and Manya arrive, London opens the window to the building to kind of let them fresh air into the room, and he notices the big tower that is in the middle of, you know, the Matsuba town, which, you know, looks very similar to like the Goha building, but obviously it doesn't have the big G anymore, so that's more than likely like the Matsuba tower of the show, basically the equivalent of the Goha tower in Sevens. And they're looking at the building, and Udius remembers a flashback that he had with Zwijio, where, you know, he was still following under Zwijio's command, and we see Zwijio on the top of this cliff, basically leading his comrades on, and basically telling them, like, you know, how he's going to do things, and, you know, they're cheering him on. And Udius looks at the building and basically says that's where he's at. Because of that flashback that he remembered, he was able to realize that since that's the biggest tower in the area, and he obviously knows himself as the commander, he's going to be on the top of that building. So I really do love that kind of tie-in with the flashback and them finding out where Zwijio is. I thought was brilliantly done. So they head towards the Matsuba Tower, and it looks like MIK had found them first, but they actually didn't, because they actually ran into Kawaii Tel a few blocks where the actual Matsuba Tower is, and basically they get into a conversation with Kawaii Tel before they run off the building to go to the Matsuba Tower. So they basically start to head to the Matsuba Tower because it seems like that's where, you know, Zwijio is going to be at. But obviously they don't reach him first because it's Udius in the group that actually reaches the Matsuba Tower first. And then that's when they run into Mitazuku. And obviously, you know, they're basically, you know, exploring the building. They're trying to find where Zwijio is. Udius calls out to him, and there he is, standing on top of the tower is Zwijio, or I guess he was standing on top of like this like internet pole looking thing. I don't know what the hell was up there. It was like some type of signal system that was up on top of the building. He was just standing right on top of the building looking so menacingly, and that's how they basically end off the episode. A perfect way to set up the duel between Udius and Zwijio. So very excited for this next episode to see for the first time in the show the confrontation between Udius and Zwijio. This has obviously been a duel that I feel like everyone in the community has been waiting to see in the show. This is basically your protagonist versus rival of the show, and I'm super excited to see these two throw down for this first time, because I do believe that they're going to duel multiple times throughout the show. But I'm very excited to see these two go at it, and just to see what happens. I hope that Zwijio does win, because I feel like you still need to kind of have him as a threat for a little while, so we're obviously going to have to wait and see on that, but that's what I'm kind of hoping that we see going into the next episode, but anything is possible, right? So yeah, with that being said, that is going to be it for this episode review. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your guys' thoughts on episode 11 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Go Rush. Did you like the episode? Did you think the episode was okay? Or were you not the biggest fan of this episode? Let me know your guys' thoughts on, the whole training, relearning about Rush Duels aspect of this episode. Were you completely fine with it and you didn't mind them doing that? Or were you not really the biggest fan of them doing this whole, relearning Rush Duels aspect of the episode? And let me know your guys' thoughts on Manabu and MIK, because obviously they're now a way bigger threat than they were at the very beginning of the show, and I'm very excited to see what this group is going to do down the line. But let me know your guys' thoughts on that, and does MIK as a concept grown in your guys' opinion, or are you still a little wary about the group in the sense that you don't really care too much about the group and you don't think they're going to be really that big of a threat? I hope that they're a threat at some point, but obviously we're going to have to wait and see. But with that being said, that's going to be it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, guys, take care and have yourselves a great rest of your day.